After the latest account update video, I got a bunch of DMs asking me, Spartan, you are saving sculptures, but for who? Which commander are you going to invest? And the thing is, I'm not just saving sculptures, I'm saving materials, I'm saving blueprint choice chests, formation chest, pretty much everything. Well, that's because even I don't know what I'm going to do. And that's why we have this investment roadmap on the screen. And in this video, it's going to be a little bit different. I'm asking for your help. I will show you a few investment options, and I want you to tell me, I want you to guide me which option sounds the best or most logical. Without further ado, let's start with option number one. Oh wait, before number one, I need to tell you why my mind has changed. Because when I first started this restart account, I had one goal and one goal only. It was going to be a pure cavalry account. However, the latest cavalry commanders, well, one of them is Garrison, so the open field version, Prime Belisarius, didn't really impress me. I think he is, compared to latest generation commanders, he was a little bit underwhelming. He's really good for certain things, but those things are not exactly what I'm looking for. Later on, we saw the skills of William Wallace, and for open field purposes, he looks way better. At least that's what I think. And there is one more reason why I kind of changed my mind about going full cavalry, but we're going to discuss it in the third slide for the investment roadmap. So now, let's start with number one. As you can see, the first option is sticking to the original plan and going for pure cavalry. We have some pros and cons about it. Number one, since we do already have a max Minamoto, with a grand total of 1,470 sculptures, I think we will have like two pretty solid pairs. I'm not saying he's one of the greatest commanders in the Season of Conquest, but I think he's solid and his museum buffs are pretty good. He's going to be decent, right? He's going to be really good as a temporary commander. Until you invest on a 4th cav commander, you can definitely use Minamoto primary. And as you can see, we have William 390 sculptures. That's going to be a 5551 William. And we can use Mina primary, William secondary. We can also max Nevsky 690 sculptures and pair him with a 5515 Joan of Arc. Since this was basically the original plan that I had on my mind, I'm saving all my skill resets to increase my chances greatly to get that 5515 Joan of Arc. And thanks to Minamoto, just by investing on 3 commanders, we are going to have 2 solid marches. And of course, we are going to benefit from all those bonuses of cavalry, like dealing a lot of damage and also being the fastest troop type on the field, which not only makes you run away from your enemies faster or easier, you can also chase down your enemies. You can get, really good amount of kill points when chasing down those low health marches, because the lower the health of a march, the more kill points that you are going to get. But of course, if you look at those commanders, they are quite quote-unquote old, like William, Nevsky, maybe Joan is not that old, but still not the latest generation commander. And the other downside is, if instead of William or Joan of Arc, we decide to invest on Ho Chu Bing, he's, in my opinion, like a great commander. However, in that case, we will have 3 single target commanders with only 1 AoE. It's going to be either William or Joan of Arc. And that's, in my opinion, is another downside, because for field fighting, most of the time you like to have that big AoE damage. So this was our option number one. Let's move on to the option number 2. And this shouldn't be a no surprise. What if we change our focus from cavalry to infantry? Because let's be honest, the latest generation infantry commanders have been amazing. Scipio Prime, Liu Che, we can even count Gorgo, even though she's not a field commander, she's a garrison commander, but she works really good with Liu Che. And then we have finally William Wallace and Scipio Emilianus. Again, both commanders I think are amazing, but the main one that we care is William Wallace, since we are a low spender and most of our job is just fighting on the field. So basically, if we switch our focus from cavalry to infantry, we are going to be playing with great commanders. And these great commanders are also great low investment commanders, whether it's Liu Che, Scipio, Wallace. You don't even need to expertise Guan Yu. If you get lucky and you are able to skip that rally skill, I think he's a good low investment. But Guan is also one of the downsides of the infantry right now. I will make a dedicated video about an infantry problem, because let's be honest, Liu Che, William Wallace, I would say with a 95% chance is going to be the best open field march in the game. And if you're running 1 infantry march only, what are you going to do with Scipio? Because Scipio is also a great commander, but I'm not saying William Wallace is purely better than Scipio as a single commander. But William has a lot more synergies, obviously, coming from the smite damage with Liu Che, who is probably the best field commander at this moment. So if we choose to go with this route, we will of course going to invest on Liu Che and William Wallace, but we also want to have Scipio, But in that case, like, are we going to invest on Guan? Are we going to invest on Alex? It really doesn't feel right to me investing on commanders that are that old. But as I said, I will make a dedicated video about this quote-unquote infantry problem. And another downside is going to be we will have a subpar cavalry march. Yes, we do have a max Minamoto, but since clearly we are choosing the infantry route, we are not going to invest on another cavalry commander. And in that case, we will, even in Season of Conquest, either we won't be using a cav march, which is going to be kind of wasted because we did spend some money on Minamoto. We also crafted a decent gear, or we will be using Minamoto with Babers or Minamoto with, 5 something Cao. And both marches are definitely not that great in Season of Conquest. So that is another problem. But as I said, we can certainly switch our focus to infantry and first spend our sculptures on Liu Che and William Wallace. Maybe don't invest on CPO yet, bench our cavalry march as well and play with one march only, one infantry march, and save our sculptures again to see if the next infantry commander works really good with CPO or not, and depending on that, we can just invest on CPO and that other upcoming commander to go up to 2 infantry marches. Let me know what you think, because that's the whole purpose of this video. I'm asking for your help. Let's move on to the third option, and it will look a little bit weird, but I'll explain. Right, I call this odd way. As you can see, for field fighting, we have siege commanders, we have engineering commanders. The first one is, I think, the best two because the latest two, Gajahmada and Cordoba, and then we have Margaret and Babur. We also have leadership commanders at the end, but I will explain in a moment. This, of course, has some pros and cons. Number one, it is different. I'm not talking about being different than the most people on the field. I'm talking about, since this is a restart account, because on my first one, I already had like Max Nevsky, Joan, CPO, Guam, whatever. This is just going to be different for me. I will have a different gaming experience. I will play Rise of Kingdoms in a way that I've never done. So I think it's a good selling point. Number two, the second pro, it has a low supply. What I mean by that is not many people are investing on these commanders. So in a moment that we need these type of investments, having them available and ready to go to benefit our kingdom as a whole is going to be very important. The third one, and that is definitely the best selling point, these marches are the most kill point efficient, or hospital efficient, I should say. Because if you take a look at, average, not even full special talented legendary gear and all that, even with low invested commanders and okay gear, the ratios these marches get during the field fighting is crazy. Like, it is insane. I've seen reports like 1 to 10, even 1 to 12, as long as you're able to position those engineering commanders well. And I know you're going to say, well, what if you don't? But it's kind of the case for all marches, right? Because if you position your, let's say, infantry or cavalry march bad as well, you're going to get destroyed in seconds. So positioning is important for every single march in the game. But for engineering, it is, of course, a little bit more important because there is a time that you need to, get into the tower mode. And if your position is bad, you'll need to dismantle that tower and build it again. So it is kind of frustrating. But as I said, as long as you position it well, because remember, when you're using a range march, you are dealing normal range damage. And also, since these commanders are engineering commanders, you are dealing skill damage while only taking counterattack damage, which is insane. That's why those reports are crazy, and these are the most KP efficient marches. And then we have insane gear benefit, because if you compare engineering gear to any other equipment in Rise of Kingdoms, they have substantially more stats for the same amount of materials. Look at the chest, look at the weapon, look at the legs. It doesn't matter. Every single engineering piece has more stats than any other legendary equipment in the game. And that's how you will have this insanely powerful gear. And then we have this double chain thing. And this brings us to the last two commanders on the screen, Heraclius and Lapu Lapu. When you invest on these commanders, you will have 2 circular active skills. And with those, every single time you open up the game, you can chain barbarians with 2 different marches and then do whatever you want to do with other 3 marches. And this is a huge benefit if you're spending a lot of time. Well, I'm not spending a lot of time in the game, let's be honest. However, having that option to chain barbarians with 2 marches at the same time whenever I'm online is, I think, a great benefit, because chaining barbarians has such an insane value. And if we have, let's say, a lot of extra sculptures, we can also go ahead and expertise these 2 commanders, which will give us a very rare garrison, a leadership garrison, because I doubt that other than very high spenders, no one in the game will have these commanders' expertise. Yes, leadership garrison is not the best, and if you want to garrison a structure, you preferably need to have, max crystal tank, max VIP, etc. But in some cases, especially when a rally and garrison meta is simply the same troop type, let's say right now the best rally is infantry, best garrison is also infantry, as a kingdom, you run out of infantry pretty quickly. And in those moments, kingdoms are usually looking for a leadership garrison so that they can also use their archer sieges, whatever. And I think as long as we are not in a very high seed kingdom with a leadership garrison and leadership, proper leadership equipment, for the first time ever in Rise of Kingdoms, we might be able to garrison 1 or 2 times. And I think it's going to be a different experience. And even though I always say the best city defense is definitely a peace shield, there will be occasions that you need to try to defend a rally to your city. And I think leadership commanders are the best at that. Whether it's Theodora, YSS, Lapu, Heraclius, doesn't matter. And this is also another benefit to consider. However, this account as a whole is going to be a low demand account. What I mean by that, let's say you want to migrate and your field marches are engineering commanders and you have a leadership garrison, there's a high chance that recruiters will say, like, don't you have Liu Che, William Wallace, Herman, Zhuge Liang? And you'll say, no, I have the engineers and the leadership commanders. And maybe they're going to reject your, your migration application, but it is what it is. Another downside is, same with the infantry route, we are going to have a subpar cavalry march. Again, we're not going to invest on a cavalry commander. We will either use Minamoto Berbers or Minamoto Cao. Maybe we're just going to bench our cavalry as a whole. And there is one more reason why this is an option for our account, is if you watch 1093 versus 60 GT KVK, you will see that 60 GT siege units, engineering commanders or engineering marches, did a lot for them. And some occasions were crazy. They were firing with 30 or 40 marches over the mountains, and this really helped them a lot for the field. But as I said, I haven't made up my mind yet. I need your help. So let me know down below option 1, 2 or 3. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your guidance. I see you on the next one. Goodbye.